and welcome to my first seasonal TBR video. So I've decided I want to test out, instead of doing a specific list of books I'm trying to read each month, instead I want to try doing seasonal TBRs instead. So I will be talking about the books that I'm hoping to get to over the next 3 months, which for us here in California are the summer months, June, July, and August. And some of the books I'm planning on getting to that way, I don't know, I just kind of want to move away from doing monthly TBR videos, so it leaves me maybe a little bit more room for mood reading and for switching things in and out and stuff, and especially with the amount of books I've been reading lately, a little bit less than normal, it just gives a little bit less pressure on me. So let's get into all of my plans for my summer reading. First, let's talk about books that I've already partially started that I know I'm going to be finishing over the next, well, these will probably be over the next month for June. And the first one is The Joy Luck Club by Amy Tan. This one I am about 2/3 of the way in so far. I'll probably finish this in the next couple days. And this is part of the Penguin Orange Classic series, and I'm really enjoying this book so far. I feel like these last couple books I've been reading, I've been really enjoying. I just finished The Office of Historical Corrections, which I haven't really, which is a random just mood read pickup from my library, a short story collection. I'll obviously talk about it in my wrap-up, my next wrap-up that I do, but this book I am enjoying as well. It's been sitting on my shelves for so long, and I've been wanting to read this book so I can watch the movie adaptation of it afterwards. But so far, this is like a 5-star read for me. We'll just have to see how the last part of the book goes. In this book, we're following this group of Asian immigrants, I believe they were, yeah, from China, who have immigrated to San Francisco, and we're following their four daughters and how they're all interconnected by this mahjong club, and each chapter is following a different character, so that part is a little bit hard to, sometimes it can be a little bit hard to keep up with who's like related to what and whose storyline goes to what. This is definitely a book I feel like I'm going to want to reread for sure in the future, but I am enjoying this so far. And then we have a book that was sent to me, and that is the final revival of Opal and Nev by Donnie Walton. I actually got the audiobook of this from Audible because they have a specifically one on there that's a full cast, and in this book it's kind of like a fictionalized history of this duo that's supposed to be really popular in the 70s, Opal and Nev. We're following a lot of like interviews. Kind of, this reminds me of that one book, I haven't read it but it sounds really familiar to me, is Daisy Jones and the Six. But this is kind of more with like following a 70s funk group, or I forget exactly what they were, but I'm only about 50 pages into this book so far, but I am really enjoying listening to the audiobook for this, and I've kind of been going back and forth. The two main people this is following around is Opal, who's like this young black woman. She's a black punk artist, and we're following Nev, who is this British singer-songwriter, and what made them have a duo, and it's told through the perspective of this journalist and her. We get also how her backstory is kind of linked with theirs, and also just like different other players that are kind of around and involved in their storylines, different perspectives from them. And I'm enjoying it so far. I'm partially into it, so I'm going to definitely keep going. One book, that random book that I picked up last month, and I'm hoping to make some progress in over the next month or couple months, is A People's History of the United States. Now, this is not really something I typically pick up. I forget what even prompted me to buy this a couple of years ago, but I was just in the mood to read it, and I'm only like 60 pages into it. But I think it's just very interesting as someone who didn't really retain a lot of history that they learned in high school or any grade really. This stuff is definitely a good refresher, and for me, I feel like I know nothing about the history, and I feel like it is important, something important to know about the history of the United States, and so I'm kind of reading in this one. This one I feel like is very, it's written in a way that I don't feel like it goes over my head too much really, but it is a lot of information, so I'm sure I'm not going to retain all of this, but if I can at least, you know, get something out of it, I think it'll be worth the read, even though this is like extremely long. This is like over 600 pages, so it's going to take me a minute to get through this. Two other books kind of along the similar vein, where they're kind of chunky, they're very chunky books, and I just feel like I'm gonna have to dip in and out of them, is I'm still working on New Daughters of Africa, which is like an anthology written by women of African descent. And we have The Big Payback, which is the history of the business of hip-hop, which again, I'm only about 50 pages into this one. I think with nonfiction, it's just hard for me to power through them sometimes when they're very thick books and it's very intimidating. Okay, then some books that I'm wanting to read that are on my Libby app that I'll share with you guys. So we have Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I've just been hearing this book everywhere. It's the next book by the guy who wrote The Martian, which I did enjoy reading when that came out. And this is also another like space book following a similar type of character. This one is kind of like a more science-based thriller is how it's described. So I'll definitely be getting to that one. Then I also have checked out right now Unsettled Ground by Claire Fuller. This one, I think it was nominated for like the Women's Prize in Fiction or something like that, which has kind of put it back on my radar. But I have been interested in reading this book since it came out because I read another book by this author. I think it was called Bitter Orange. Yes, it was by the same author. So this one we're following a brother and sister who are twins. I just started this book last night, so I'm only like 10% into it. And their mother has just died. At the beginning of the novel, they're kind of very secluded. They've always like kind of lived at home with their mom, so people kind of see them as they're kind of weird. And they are older. They're, I believe, in their 50s, so we're following both of their perspectives, and it's very different so far. I really just enjoy Claire Fuller's writing, and I really loved Bitter Orange. It's one I've wanted to reread for a while, and when I seen this book coming out by her, I knew for sure I was going to want to read it, so I'm enjoying it so far. We'll just have to see how the rest of the book goes. As far as other books I may potentially get to, I do have 2 other books checked out from the library currently right now, and they're audiobooks, so we'll just have to see if I'm in the mood for them. The first one is Red Island House by ANDREA Lee. This one is described as a travel epic that opens a window on the mysterious African island of Madagascar and on the dangers of life and love in paradise as seen through the eyes of a Black American heroine. This one is about 12 hours long, so it'll take me a minute probably to get to that one. And then the other one is a nonfiction book, which I'm kind of hit and miss with being able to read, not listen to nonfiction books, but it's one I've been wanting to read for forever. It's called The Blood of Emmett Till by Timothy B. Tyson. And this follows the very infamous case of that happened in Mississippi in 1955. Very, very sad. But the 14-year-old boy Emmett Till, who was murdered by a white mob after he was accused of making like flirtatious marks to a white woman. So I would definitely love to read or listen to the audiobook for this. It's just a book that I've really been wanting to read for a long time. And then I have 2 other books that are on hold that I may try to get to, and the first one is Clara and the Sun by KAZUO Ishiguro. This one just came out recently. This one's following like an AI character, I believe, and I haven't read anything by KAZUO Ishiguro yet, but this one everyone's talking about right now because it was his new wrist release, and so I want to get to it myself and see what it's all about. I feel like lately I've been enjoying doing that for new releases. It's just getting them from my library to see if they're even worth the money before going out and buying like a brand new book. And then another book, the only other one that I have on hold right now, which is kind of just a possibility. I'm thinking about possibly trying to get into Robin Hobb's books, but I know he has so many out there and a lot of different series and stuff. And when I was researching online, they say that the best place to start is with Assassin's Apprentice. And I don't really know too much about this series, just that it's just a very well-known fantasy. He's a very well-known fantasy writer. So I want to kind of just give one of his books a try and see if potentially he's an author I want to read his books from. I know a lot of people, like even George R.R. Martin, have praised his books, so I want to see if I like it or not. And this is the first book in the Farseer trilogy. So yeah, I'm gonna read this book and give it a try and see if I really get on with this author's writing or not. I don't even know how many books I've mentioned now, but besides that, I just want to be able to kind of mood read and pick out books from my shelves as I go. The only 2 books I have that I'm knowing for sure I want to get to off my shelves. The first one is an ARC that I was sent a couple weeks ago, and it's called Black Girls Must Die Exhausted, which is definitely a very, very true title by Jane Allen. This book comes out in August, so I would like to read it before the release date. This is actually the first novel in what is going to be a 3-part series. In this book, we're following Tabitha Walker, who is a Black woman with a plan to have it all. She has everything, her education, a good job, down payment on a house, dating, and everything she thinks she has figured out, but then she receives this unexpected diagnosis that kind of throws her whole life's plan out of whack. This sounds like a more like kind of hard-hitting, maybe contemporary book, which isn't something I read a lot of, but I was drawn to this one, so I'm hoping that this one is good and I will want to read all 3 books in the series. But if I really like it, that's going to suck because the next 2 books probably aren't going to be coming out for another year or 2 at least. And then the other one I want to get to is a book I've had sitting on my cart for forever, and that is Valley of the Dolls by Jacqueline Susan. I was just randomly reading, I just randomly picked up this book a couple nights ago and I read like the first chapter and I really was drawn into the writing and the story, and so it made me want to bump this book up in priority. So hopefully I will get to this one soon as well. I don't really know too much about this book. I just know that from what I read so far, we're following this girl who moves on her own to New York City, and this is not super usual. I believe it takes place in like the 50s or 60s, so most women, their life's goal was to get married and have kids, and she wants to go actually out and work and kind of just make her own life for herself, which is very refreshing to read from someone of that kind of perspective. So that's kind of what drew me into this book, and I really liked the author's writing so far from what I could tell, and so hopefully, like I said, this is one that we get to. As far as those books go, I hope to maybe make some progress in my series shelves. There's definitely so many series that I've been wanting to get to for forever. I just haven't had a chance to yet. That's it for my summer reading plans. Let me know if you guys have read any of these books or if you have suggestions on which ones I should prioritize, and also let me know what your guys' reading plans for the summer are, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!